Opinions and stories around the game we love, told by your favorite storytellers. Stay up to date with all things cricket. Subscribe to Cricbuzz's YouTube channel and press that bell icon now.
Another T20 World Cup. Players to watch out for. It's one of the easiest exercises to do. Who are the players to watch out for at this World Cup? David Warner, Jos Buttler, Babar Azam, Virat Kohli, Rashid Khan. It's a very easy list to make. I thought we'd do it a little differently here on Cricbuzz. I thought we'll look at each team. I've looked at the top 6 teams at this World Cup, the 6 teams that I think have a chance of winning the World Cup. And I said, for these teams, for them to win, who are the players who will play the key roles? And I've gone down that way with the top 6 teams. So let's start with the 2 teams that I think are the lead contenders, Australia and England. Australia, right at the top, David Warner. It's a team full of big hitters, but Warner controls that. So I think Warner is absolute key, especially because we don't quite know where Finch is going to bat. Even if he bats, we don't quite know what his form is. Is Mitch Marsh always going to be fit right through the tournament? The top order is controlled by Warner. But at the back end, I know they've got Cummins. I know they've got Hazelwood is having a pretty good run. Zampa is one of the best in the game. They've got all-rounders. But someone who doesn't play a lot of T20 cricket, who's a fantastic 10 overs white ball bowler, but I think he's absolute key for Australia to win this tournament, and that is Mitch Starc. Mitch Starc has a bad tournament. Australia will struggle. He is their enforcer. So if Australia have to win this World Cup, they need Warner and Starc to be playing big roles. Let's go on to England. I'm not talking about England's batting because I think it is so well stocked. You look at Buttler, Hale, Stokes, Malan, Moeen, Brook, Livingston. It's a fabulous lineup. I don't think you need to worry about the batting because England's batting will do well. I think for England to do well, there are 2 key players. Reese Stopley, because he brings a left-arm angle, and in a side that is known to leak runs, and that determines where the batting determines whether they go the distance or no. I think he stands out over there. So Reese Stopley is an absolute key for me for England. And the second is a bowler of genuine pace. What England have is a lot of bowlers who bowl about 132, 133, might crank the odd ball up, come back. They need a middle overs enforcer because England don't take wickets, don't take enough wickets. And I think Mark Wood is absolute key for them in those middle overs because he'll come in and bowl quick. When he comes in the power play, the top edges will fly here and there like they do in the IPL for Umran Malik. But I think Mark Wood, if I can add a third, I think it's Sam Curran. I think they'll want him to bowl at the end. But if you insist on 2, those are the 2 that I've got. Okay, I've brought India in the middle just to ensure that you're watching all this time, right? Okay, India. I've done an earlier blog where we talked about key players for India. I think Surya Kumar Yadav and Hardik Pandya are the absolute key for India. If I had to pick only 2, I'd pick those 2. Surya Kumar Yadav because he really determines whether India get those additional 20 runs in the match or no. And Hardik Pandya because he plays 2-in-1 roles. Those are absolute keys for India. But I would, if you can allow me, because in India we always keep adding 4 runners. I'd love to have Arshdeep Singh in that list because I really do believe that Arshdeep Singh will play a big part if India have got to go on and win this. So that's 3 teams done. What about Pakistan? Every time you talk about Pakistan, what do you talk about? You talk about Babar Azam, you talk about Mohammad Rizwan. Yes, they've been discussed to death. If Pakistan have to win this T20 World Cup, yes, Babar will have to do well. Yes, Rizwan will have to do well. But the reason Babar and Rizwan are so talked about is because the team is geared to win a lot of 150, 160, 165 kind of games. Why are they able to do that? Because their bowlers win them matches. And I think the 2 absolute keys for Pakistan to win this, Shaheen Shah Afridi in the power play, Haris Rauf at the death. I think they're fantastic bowlers. They've got a lot of experience, Rauf in particular, of playing in Australia. He bowls 150 quite easily. He'll be in the sort of early 140s, mid 140s, but he can hit 150 easily. And Shaheen Afridi with the ball that swings up at the top. When you have a left-hander like Boulder Afridi, you're like, wow. So for my money, those 2 are the key players for Pakistan if they have to win the T20 World Cup. And since I mentioned swing, since I mentioned Shaheen Afridi, I will also have to go with Trent Boult. New Zealand are not looking as hot as they do sometimes. I mean, we say that every time, but there's always a respect for New Zealand. But I think Trent Boult has to provide wickets at the top. There's always an issue with Adam Milne, with Lockie Ferguson. Southey might be coming to the end. Santner some days, Ish Sodhi some days. Trent Boult is absolute key. And with Kane Williamson just struggling with injury and form, I think Devon Conway is going to be very, very important for New Zealand. So my two players for New Zealand are Conway and Bolt. That leaves South Africa among my top 6 teams at this tournament. And there's one standout player there. If he doesn't do well, South Africa don't go too far, and that's David Miller. David Miller's form in the last 2 or 3 years has been incredible. We talk a lot about Surya Kumar Yadav in India. David Miller's got comparable figures, at some times slightly better, on some other parameters maybe slightly lower, but he's now not just an end overs basher. He'll come in the 7th, 8th over if required. He's told the team management, I'm a batter. I'm not just an end overs finisher. So David Miller is absolute key for South Africa. Who else? You look down that side actually. Riley Russo is good, Aaron Markram, Heinrich Klaassen. Then they've got maybe a young Stubbs, maybe Parnell. They've got 3 very good fast bowlers. They'll do all that. But for South Africa to win, they have to find the answer to one major issue. And that is right at the top of the order, and that features Temba Bavuma. A man of great integrity, a man of great respect, and a wonderful captain, but he's not scoring runs. How do South Africa handle the Temba Bavuma issue? I think will go a very, very long way in determining whether they're going to win. So for me, the 2 keys for South Africa are David Miller and Temba Bavuma, and the role that he plays and the runs that he gets and how they handle that situation. What about the other teams? You will turn around and say, there he goes again, only picking the players from among the best teams. But there are a few players, every time they come on, I watch. Rashid Khan is top of that list for Afghanistan. For Afghanistan to have ambitions, Rashid Khan has to do well. I picked one from Sri Lanka, and that's Wanindu Hasaranga. I was delighted towards the end of the Asia Cup that he started recalling the batsman in himself to the party. So Rashid Khan, Wanindu Hasaranga, absolute keys for their team to progress. There's a couple of other players that I like watching. I think for the West Indies to progress, the key player for them is Obed McCoy. They have death overs problems too, like a lot of others. So for West Indies, I'm looking Obed McCoy. And for all our friends on the East, you're saying, how come he hasn't mentioned Shakib? That's one of the feedback I get every time, that I always have Shakib in all my teams. But I think in T20, we're now moving on a little bit. Shakib is not sure where he's going to bat. Injury troubles, he's playing off and on. I don't think Shakib is as much the player that he was 12, 14 months ago, 12, 14, 20 months ago. I'd be delighted to be proved wrong. But I genuinely believe Bangladesh's number 1 T20 player today is Liton Das. And I cannot for the life of me imagine why they're moving Liton Das down from his position at the top of the order to bat somewhere else. He's their best T20 player. So Liton Das is my pick from Bangladesh. So there you are. I took a little bit of liberty with what my producer asked me to. But I thought all in a good cause. Tell me who your top 6 players at this World Cup are. Who are the players that when the anthems are gone and the game's about to start, you get a little flutter in your stomach because you're waiting for them to perform? Love to hear from you.